Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hosted by the Korean government, we'd like to start the 7th special webinar on COVID-19 for policy and technology sharing. I'm Director Lee Dae-jung of Development Finance Division from the Ministry of Economy and Finance. The Korean government has been requested to share its K-quarantine experience by the international community. To respond to that request in a systematic manner, we set up International Cooperation Coronavirus Task Force with 12 ministries and 6 related agencies. This webinar has been held by the task force with a variety of themes. Today's 7th special webinar is being held under the theme of the Korean government's economic response to the outbreak. The webinar is organized by the Ministry of Economy and Finance with the support of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Employment and Labor, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy, the Ministry of SMEs and Startups, Gyeonggi Provincial Government, and Korea International Cooperation Agency. Before we start the first presentation, Deputy Minister Chang of International Affairs of Ministry of Economy and Finance will deliver an opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Deputy Minister Chang of International Affairs of the Ministry of Economy and Finance. Today's 7th webinar on COVID-19 for policy and technology sharing will cover K-economy and Korea's economic response to the COVID-19 outbreak. Currently, the world is facing the unprecedented challenge of COVID-19 pandemic and committed to responding to it with all-out efforts. The spread of the virus threatens a great number of people's lives, and confinement measures to tackle the outbreak affect even more people financially. Striking a balance between prevention, control, and economy, as well as overcoming the social polarization due to prevention and control measures, and social integration are great challenges to the governments in the world. On 19th February, the first double-digit confirmed cases were reported in Korea, and in just 10 days, the figure surged to 900, showing an explosive increase trend. However, thanks to our test, trace, and treat, so-called 3T-based prevention and control measures, and citizens' voluntary and active participation in prevention and control, the COVID-19 curve has been flattened without any lockdown measures. Since the mid-April, the number of confirmed cases in Korea has decreased to about 10, and since the early May, our distancing level is switched to distancing in daily life. However, community-acquired infection cases have been reported recently. Thus, we, the Korean government, remain vigilant, considering it is not end till it is end. To respond to the outbreak, effective economic response is as much important as prompt prevention and control measures taken by the government. We have successfully carried out prevention and control measures without any economic lockdown. As a result, international organizations, including World Bank and OECD, expected that our economic growth rate would be -1%, which is the modest among advanced countries with the expected growth rate of -5 to -6%. However, considering our high dependence on exports, our economic recovery depends on the recovery of the global economy. Through today's webinar, we are going to explain Korea's economic response using 3 Ps: protecting, preserving, and preparing. And we will introduce our economic policies to mitigate economic impact, maintain economic resilience, and to prepare for the post-corona era. In detail, measures to mitigate employment shock, support affected industries, SMEs and micro-businesses, and provide disaster relief payment. I hope today's webinar could help countries in the world devise economic policies to address economic difficulties facing the world caused by the COVID-19 outbreak. And I believe no one knows when the COVID-19 outbreak will completely end. 12 years ago, the global financial crisis spread to the world, triggering chain reactions. And we learned that we must stand together, otherwise we would collapse separately. If we fail to prevent and control the virus, it could cross the borders. And like this, the economic crisis would spread to the world if we fail to prevent and control. Jared Diamond, the author of Guns, Germs and Steel, said, "All people in the world are in the same ship to tackle the COVID-19, and we need to think we should unite as one that survives and dies together, and there's no choice but to work together. In the fight against the common enemy of COVID-19, I hope we could pull together for prevention and control, as well as economy." Thank you. Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Ho Chang, for your opening remarks.
순서에 앞서가지고 몇 가지 진행 사항에 대해서
And
말씀드리겠습니다.
I'd like to elaborate how the event will proceed. Simultaneous interpretation into English, French, and Spanish is being provided so as to as many as people can join this webinar. Also, today's webinar will be uploaded online so that those who cannot join today could watch later. And for the next 1 hour, 5 presentations will be delivered, followed by a 30-minute Q&A session. If you have any questions while watching the presentations, please write it down to the Q&A board on the right side of the screen. And let me briefly introduce the themes of the presentations and presenters. The first theme is about Korea's economic response to the outbreak. The response will be summarized with the protection, preservation, and preparation. It will be delivered by the Ministry of the Economy and Finance. Second, regarding shocks on employment caused by the outbreak, the Ministry of Employment and Labor will deliver policies for employment and labor. Third, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy will explain how to support the major industry affected by the COVID-19. And next, for SMEs, which are hardest hit, the Ministry of SMEs and Startups will elaborate supportive measures. And last but not least, Gyeonggi Province's disaster basic income, which has been implemented to revitalize the local economy, will be covered by the Gyeonggi provincial government. The first presenter is Director General Park Il-young of Development Finance Bureau of the Ministry of Economy and Finance. He's going to explain the overview of Korea's economic response to the outbreak. Good afternoon. It is a great pleasure to meet you through today's webinar. I'm Director General Park Il-young of Development Finance Bureau of the Ministry of Economy and Finance, and I'm going to deliver the first presentation on the economy. The spread of COVID-19 has been continuous, and OECD mentioned that the global economy is on a tightrope. And in the midst of this situation, prosperity can be achieved only when we have a dialogue and work together. In this regard, it is very meaningful to share K-quarantine experience and our economic measures to tackle COVID-19 with the international community. Today, I'm going to talk about the current status of the global economy and the Korean economy. Following that, I will explain a pan-government consultative body and the Korean government's economic policies and measures to tackle the outbreak. I will focus on 3 Ps, including protecting, preserving, and preparing. In particular, Korea's policies regarding industries and employment and emergency disaster relief funds will be covered by next presenters. First, I'm going to cover the current status of the outbreak in Korea. The COVID-19 curve of Korea has been flattened and the situation has been stabilized. That is why the Korean government decided to shift the level of 3 distancing level from level 2 to level 1.
다만 최근에도
However, we still remain vigilant because of new confirmed cases arising in the Greater Seoul area.
늦추지 않고 있습니다. 한국 정부는
Ever since the very early stage of the outbreak, the government has put the top priority on prevention and control while guaranteeing essential movement and openness, thus promoting the balance between prevention and control and economy. Currently, the level of distancing has been alleviated to distancing in daily life, but the government still remains alert and is committed to bringing the economy back to normal in a step-by-step manner. The global economy is facing the unprecedented uncertainty caused by the COVID-19 outbreak. And recently, World Bank projected that the global economic growth rate will record minus 5.2%, which will be the worst economic recession since World War II. In particular, the size of global trade will decline by 13.4% compared to the previous year. The current economic situation is hugely affecting the Korean economy that is characterized by the high external dependence. Korea's GDP of the first quarter fell minus 1.3% QoQ, and consumption and investment and domestic demand have been dramatically contracted. Consumer confidence index reduced 70.8 in April, which is the lowest since the global financial crisis. And the amount of credit card transaction has decreased 2 months in a row compared to YoY. Export has dramatically dropped by 23.7% in May QoQ. The number of employed persons also decreased by 392,000 YoY, which shows that the labor market is also hugely being affected by the outbreak. Next, I'm going to cover the Korean government's prompt response system to the crisis, explaining Emergency Economic Council and Central Economic Response Headquarters. The President presides the Emergency Economic Council, joined by ministers from ministries related to the economy. It is the highest decision-making body to overcome the economic crisis caused by the outbreak. And Central Economic Response Headquarters, or CERH, is presided by the Deputy Prime Minister or Minister of Economy and Finance, and joined by ministers from pan-economic ministries. Ever since the declaration of the global pandemic, 6 council meetings have been hosted since the mid-March. After the 6 times of meetings, we decided to first implement urgent and preemptive measures to minimize damage to employment and to recover the economy. Particularly, the government discussed and announced key policies through the meetings, including the financial support package, emergency relief payment, and employment security package to boost the economy, which I'm going to cover in detail later. And since then, we have been operating CRH, presided by the Deputy Prime Minister, on a regular basis to manage and respond to the crisis. Since the mid-April, 6 times of CRH meetings have been held to review and share the current status of the economy and market. At the same time, we are currently developing additional measures to overcome the crisis while implementing announced policies. And let's look at the economic policies to respond to the outbreak in detail. Through Emergency Economic Council meetings and CERH, the government has come up with a comprehensive policy package worth 270 trillion Korean won, which accounts for 14% of our GDP. Korea's economic response to the outbreak could be summarized to protecting, preserving, and preparing. First is protecting. It is about creating quality jobs and protecting SMEs and small businesses hit by the outbreak. To help affected businesses retain their employees, we have expanded employment retention subsidies for businesses that have not cut their employees but closed themselves or given their employees time-offs. Also, to relieve nationwide economic damage to our citizens, we have provided emergency relief payment to all Koreans. In fact, consumer confidence index rose in May after 4 months, showing some signs of moderate recovery.
자금 조달에 어려움을 겪는
And for
중소기업,
SMEs
소상공인을 위해서는
and small businesses facing difficulties in fundraising, we give emergency management funds and super low interest loans to them, depending on their credit level.
신속하게
And we accelerate the guarantee
보증 과정을 실행하고
process.
있습니다. 또한 민간
Furthermore,
임대인이
in
임대료를
case where
위반하면
landlords voluntarily give discount to their tenants, then the government will bear 50% of the discount, which is called Good Landlord Campaign.
금융시장에 대해서는
And as for the
시장
financial
수요를
market,
보완하여
we are currently managing Bond Market Stabilization Fund and Securities Market Stabilization Fund to support the bond, securities, and money markets money provision and brokerage.
둘째로는
Second P is preserving.
이는 내수 촉진과
Preserving
피해
is
산업
about
분야 지원,
maintaining economic resilience by boosting domestic demand, supporting affected industries, and promoting export.
선결제, 선분교,
And as an end customer in the public sector, the government is committed to early recovery of the domestic demand with prepayment and pre-purchasing.
해운,
Also, we have relieved burdens and provided financial support to the aviation, shipping, and automotive industry that are hardest
수출기업에
hit.
대한 금융 지원 및
And for export-oriented businesses, we provide financial support and conducted untaxed business matching programs to improve export.
통화 정책에
And when it comes to monetary policies, the government lowered the base interest rate by 0.5% point to 0.75% on 17th March, and on 18th May, the rate was down another 0.25% point to 0.5%, showing the trend of low interest rate. The last P is preparing. It means Korea's economic response to the post-COVID-19 era. The managing director, Kristalina Georgieva of IMF, recommended that we build the world that is greener, smarter, and fairer. To prepare for the post-COVID-19 era, the Korean government has been pushing forward Korean-style New Deal, which is a nationwide project. Korean New Deal is divided into Digital New Deal and Green New Deal based on a large employment safety net. It is a greener, smarter, and fairer solution to the crisis. The New Deal project emphasizes the government's active role in creating jobs, which is similar to the existing New Deal project. However, the new one aims to advance the economic structure, create sustainable jobs, and pushes for the establishment of digital infrastructure and digitalization of SOC. It differentiates the new one from the previous 20th century New Deal project. The first foundation for the Korean New Deal is a strengthened employment safety net. Artists and workers of special employment types have been in the gray area of employment insurance, but the government plans to support them to subscribe employment insurance, thus laying the foundation for the employment safety net for all Koreans. Also, the government plans to provide job-seeking subsidies and supportive service to those who not subscribed to the employment insurance and vulnerable workers. In addition, one way to secure the employment safety net is to make effort to enhance occupational training programs for future. Digital New Deal aims to combine all industries with data, 5G, and AI to strengthen data, network, and AI ecosystem, so-called DNA ecosystem. The project is to create sustainable jobs by expanding digital platforms and nationwide 5G network, and by nurturing 100,000 software talents. And to foster untapped industries, we will set up Wi-Fi environment for digital learning in elementary, middle, and high schools. And also we will provide infrastructure for remote work to more than 160,000 SMEs. For the Digital New Deal project, $11.2 billion will be utilized by 2022 with the aim of creating 330,000 new jobs. Next, Green New Deal. It is to respond to changes caused by the outbreak in the economy and society and prepare for the new normal so as to become a leading country. As a responsible member of the international community, we need to actively respond to climate change. In that process, we will create new markets, new industries, and new jobs through Green New Deal project.
녹색 산업,
This project focuses on 3 major areas and 8 key tasks. The major areas include eco-friendly infrastructure, green industry, and low-carbon energy. To be more specific, the city, space, and daily life infrastructure will be shifted to be eco-friendly. And we will select and nurture 100 promising enterprises that could lead Green New Deal and utilize $10.7 billion by 2022 to create 133,000 new jobs.
이상과 같이 말씀드린 방향하에
Additional to this, we plan to announce comprehensive Korean New Deal project in July with added and complemented tasks.
현재 전 세계는
Currently, the world is at war against the common enemy of COVID-19 outbreak.
코로나19의
To put an end to the outbreak as early as possible and recover the global economy, the international community's strengthened solidarity and policy coordination are the most important factor.
디지털 전환 가속화,
We need to come up with concrete coordination measures to deal with fundamental and structural changes in the global economic orders, including acceleration of digital transformation, the reshaping of global value chain, and deepening inequality.
국제사회의 노력에
In this regard, we, Korea, have actively worked together with the international community. And we have been strengthening policy coordination and financial cooperation with G20 and international financial institutions through a variety of channels, including bilateral cooperation.
방역, 경제 대응
And we are committed to sharing Korea's prevention and control measures and experience on economic response, and to supporting developing countries when it comes to relief of debt burden and development cooperation projects.
방역과 경제의
Going forward, with the balance between prevention and control and economy, we will make sure to prepare and implement policies seamlessly to overcome the crisis and prepare for the post-COVID-19 era. Thank you.
네, 국장님 그 발표
Thank you very much,
감사드리겠습니다.
Director General, for your presentation.
고용 분야
And next,
정책에
regarding
대해서
employment and labor policies, Director Jung Hae-young of International Cooperation Division of the Ministry of Employment and Labor will deliver a presentation.
Hello, and thank you for joining us at this special webinar. I am Director Chang Hae-young, International Cooperation Division from Ministry of Employment and Labor. Today, I'll talk about emergency employment measures responding to COVID-19. My presentation will cover labor market changes due to COVID-19 and emergency employment measures in 3 areas. First of all, the recent changes taking place in the labor market. The spread of COVID-19 has put the Korean labor market at risk never experienced before. As of May this year, employment rate and the number of employees decreased significantly compared to May last year. Employment rate from 15 to 64 fell 1.3 percentage point to 65.8%, and the number of employees dropped by 392,000. Especially vulnerable populations such as temporary daily workers, self-employed, and youth have been hit hardest. Economic activities resumptions increased job search activity, while increase of economically inactive population in May was smaller than that of April, but still large compared to the increase before the pandemic. Number of people who did not participate in economic activities with no particular reason increased by 323,000, which is the largest increase since 2004 when we started recording index. In order to improve worsened employment situation, the Korean government established a set of measures for employment stability. First, to keep people in employment, the government is expanding measures to help employers ease the burden of labor cost and protect workers' job security. Second, income support is strengthened for vulnerable who experience job loss impact. Lastly, we plan to create 550,000 new jobs, mainly in the public sector and youth jobs. First of all, I'll explain the government support for employee retention. To mitigate the COVID-19 impact on employment, the government provides support for employee retention and is taking every possible measures to resolve difficulties faced by employers and workers. Providing various support is to maintain business competitive and skilled workers so that after the COVID-19 crisis, the labor market can quickly recover. The Korean government provides employee retention subsidy. When faced with inevitable restructuring, instead of laying off employees, if employers retain their employees through temporary business suspension or employees' leave of absence, the subsidy is paid to cover part of employee salaries. As business struggle amid COVID-19 from February to July, more companies are retaining employment through business suspension or employee leave of absence. So, the government decided to raise the amount of subsidy. Due to severe difficulties as a result of the COVID-19, from April to June, the government decided to expand the support to cover 90% of benefits provided to the employees. When business cannot afford to pay employee leave of absence or business suspension benefits due to severe financial difficulties, 500,000 won per month for unpaid leave for up to 3 months is paid. As the number of unpaid leave increased due to the COVID-19, the government relaxed the requirement to be eligible for this subsidy. The government designed businesses whose employment is most at risk as special employment support sectors and provides a wide range of support to employers and workers in those sectors. In March, due to the spread of COVID-19, 4 industries whose employment is certain to worsen, thus in need of special support such as travel, tourism and lodging, tourist transportation, and performance industries were designated as a special employment support sectors. As more sectors struggle, additional sectors were designated in April, such as aircraft, ground handling, duty-free and travel, retail exhibitions, international conventions, and airport bus. Employers and workers in 8 industries designated as a special employment support sectors can enjoy increased support. Specifically, support for employers taking employee retention measures is strengthened. The deadline for employment insurance contribution has been deferred. In addition, employers who provide vocational training will receive increased amount of support. Workers can enjoy increased livelihood support for stable living by expanding the limit on financing for stable living and easing conditions for income. Now, the emergency family care leave subsidy. With the spread of COVID-19, child care centers, kindergartens, and elementary schools were closed nationwide. Thus, the need for family care support for workers has expanded. When workers need family care, they could use up to 10 days of family care leave per year, but financial difficulties follow as the leave is unpaid. In response, the government established financial support measures to allow workers to use family care leave with less burden. Amount of emergency family care leave subsidy paid to workers who take the leave on grounds related to COVID-19 is 50,000 Korean won per day. As the demand for care expands from April, the payment period is expanded from 5 to 10 days. Dual income household can receive total of 1 million won. To relieve the burden of small business owners, the government further increased the amount of stability job funds, allowing the deadline or reducing the amount of insurance contribution. To relieve the burden of labor cost at microbusiness and SMEs resulting from the minimum wage increase, the government provides job stability funds. Spread of COVID-19 increases burden of employers. The subsidy is temporarily expanded. Subsidies is increased from 110,000 won per employee to business with less than 5 employees to 180,000 won, from 90,000 won to 160,000 won for workplace with more than 5 employees, and to 130,000 won with more than 10 employees. To ease the burden of insurance contribution for small micro-business owners, employees with reduced income and business with fewer than 30 employees is permitted to defer payment for social insurance and or receive 30% of insurance cut for 3 months depending on their income. Second, let me touch upon policies to support livelihood stability for the vulnerable population. In particular, the government is working hard to support self-employed who are not covered within the employment support subsidy programs such as non-standard contract employees and freelancers. Responding to the regional economic recession caused by widespreading COVID-19, special support program for regional employment is implemented to stabilize and support the livelihood of workers by 17 local governments nationwide. To workers who are in the blind spot of employment safety net in local communities such as unpaid leave, dependent self-employees and freelancers, monthly subsidy of up to 500,000 won per month for 2 months is paid. While apart from the previous employment support measures, local governments are providing intensive support by designating industries especially affected by COVID-19. On top of that, dependent self-employees, home study teachers, institution instructors, those working in the theater, film industries, and freelancers who are highly likely to lose income as it is difficult to carry out face-to-face services are provided with monthly livelihood stabilization subsidy of up to 500,000 won for 3 months from June the 1st. Total number of recipients is 930,000. The subsidy is different from the employee retention subsidy provided to workers on unpaid leave. It is impossible to receive 2 grants simultaneously. The government strengthening support for job-seeking activities of the vulnerable. Job Search Promotion Subsidy is introduced to support low-income households. Job Search Promotion Subsidy is provided for the low-income households below the age of 69 and earn less than 60% of the median income and successfully carry out one's job-seeking plan. 500,000 won per month is paid up to 3 months. The government expanded the scope of job-seeking activities, so non-standard contract employees and freelancers previously excluded became eligible for this subsidy. For the unemployed youth to reduce their economic burden and facilitate labor market entry, youth between the age of 18 and 34 and earn less than 120% of the median income with less than 2 years after graduation, job search promotion allowance of 500,000 won per month up to 6 months is paid. Lastly, as a way to improve employment condition worsened by the COVID-19, the government will create 550,000 new jobs. First of all, the public sector will create 100,000 non-face-to-face IT-related jobs, while to assist recovery of the local economy, 300,000 public jobs based on the demand of local governments will be created. In private sectors, when recruiting young people for IT-based occupation or offering work experience for the youth, subsidy is provided. When hiring workers during the COVID-19, subsidy is paid so that we can create 550,000 new jobs. Based on the cooperative social dialogue between the labor and management, the Korean government will continue to implement measures to stabilize employment and tackle economic and employment challenges caused by the COVID-19. With that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Chang, for your presentation. Next, Team Leader Kwon Sun-mok of Industrial Policy Division of the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy will deliver the presentation regarding supportive measures for affected industries.
예, 안녕하세요.
Good afternoon. I am Team Leader Kwon Sun-mok of Industrial Policy Division of the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy. Today, I'm going to talk about supportive measures for major industries, including the automotive, shipbuilding, textile, and exhibition industry, to help them overcome the outbreak. First, I'm going to explain why we chose these 4 industries. These industries are key industries of the Korean economy and facing even more difficulties than ever before. I will cover the current status of each industry, followed by the supportive measures for them. First, background. The global economic downturn leads to the sluggish export. Korea is highly depending on export. Thus, the stagnant export hugely affects the industries. In particular, export is critically important in the automotive, shipbuilding, and textile industry. That is why they are the hardest hit. To help those industries overcome the crisis and maintain their competitiveness, the Korean government pushes forward supportive measures. Let's look at the four industries' status. First, the automotive industry. Until March, domestic demand and consumption complemented contraction in export. But from April, a sharp decline in export is highly likely to lead to a contraction in production. Particularly, small and medium-sized parts enterprises have appealed problems they have regarding liquidity. Second, it is the shipbuilding industry. Thanks to pre-existing orders, a short-term shock is relatively less severe than other industries. However, new order placings have been decreasing, thus we need to preemptive measures for the decline. Third, the textile industry. Due to the COVID-19 outbreak, the global demand has rapidly declined. Also, the industry is experiencing issues regarding supply and transport of raw materials, which lead to reduction in export and production. Since May, there has been almost no new orders. Lastly, the exhibition industry. Ever since the virus has spread widely, almost all exhibitions have been cancelled or postponed. Since the exhibition industry is a kind of service industry, it hugely affects employment. That's why there has been growing concern, and the amount of damage caused by the outbreak is expected to be 210 billion Korean won. Let's look at supportive measures for each industry. First, regarding the measures for the automotive industry, the Korean government will provide liquidity. To supply liquidity to about 100 SMEs, we devised PCBO programs worth about 300 billion and loan program that exceeds the credit limit of 5 trillion provided by policy finance organizations. And also to provide liquidity to vendor companies, large enterprises and policy finance institutions guarantee credit for vendor companies under a supportive platform. Second is about relieving burdens of enterprises. We currently expand the number of components subject to exceptional tariffs on airfare and permit a long-term storage of imported parts in bonded areas. Furthermore, we have a plan to extend the due date for tariff and VAT payment for the imported parts to the end of this year and allow for divided payment. Third, how to promote demand in the automotive industry. We will lower special consumption tax by 70% for new vehicle buyers until June 30th. Plus, we help OEMs sell more finished vehicles by promoting the early purchase of business purpose vehicles in the public sector. Also, we already doubled the subsidies for the purchase of electric trucks. Next is how to support the shipbuilding industry. First, it is also liquidity supply. The government plans to provide structured finance worth 8 trillion Korean won to vendor companies, and we maintain the issuance of refund guarantee or RG while issuing them on time. Also, we extend the due date for a structured finance for ships or contracts that have been delayed until the actual delivery. Second is about expanding public order placings. We already modified outdated government vessels to eco-friendly ones and are committed to placing orders for deep-sea fishing vessels and Coast Guard vessels as early as possible in the year. Third, supportive measures for employment. In case where a specific industry is facing severe difficulties, we designate the industry as a target for special employment subsidies. The shipbuilding industry is already designated as one of the targets, and it will be valid until June 20th, but we review the extension of the period for 6 more months. Next, I'm going to talk about the supportive measures for the textile industry. We will first provide liquidity to the industry. COVID-19 affected textile SMEs will receive liquidity through the extension of the due date for loans from Korea SMEs and Startup agencies and guarantees of Korea Technology Finance Corporation. Also, we have a plan to provide customized technology guarantee to venture startups by utilizing COVID-19 special guarantees for startups and venture companies. Plus, we plan to extend the due date for tariff and VAT payment for the imported raw materials until the end of this year at maximum and to permit divided payment. Second, public procurement. We will promote the early execution of the budget assigned for the purchase of textiles or clothing in the public sector, such as the National Policy Agency and National Fire Agency. Third, we will improve demand by promoting Korea Fashion Market, which will be joined by 50 domestic fashion brands. We will boost demand in the private sector. Last but not least, I'm going to explain how to support the exhibition industry. First is again the supply of liquidity. Currently, we are providing funds for management stabilization through public institutions including Korea SMEs and Startups Agency and Small Enterprises and Market Services. Also, we extend the due date for bank loans and postpone the repayment of interest and principal. Second is measures to support employment. We increase subsidies for the maintenance of employment temporarily and postpone the due date of payment employment insurance and occupational health and safety insurance. Also, we added the exhibition and international conference industry to the list of business subject to special employment support. Next is tech support. We temporarily reduced allotment to traffic congestion caused by exhibition facilities by 30%. And depending on the level of damage to exhibition businesses, we will allow further reduction of property tax based on decisions by the local council. Next is the follow-up plans. Going forward, we will closely monitor the trend of the domestic economy, the global financial market, liquidity, as well as the management status and difficulties faced by the industry. And we will continuously take actions necessary. Thank you. Thank you very much for your detailed presentation regarding industrial policies. And next presentation will be delivered by Director Yang Seung-wook from Ministry of SMEs and Startups.
Hello, I am from International Cooperation Division, Ministry of SMEs and Startups, or MSS, Director Yang Seung-wook. On behalf of MSS, I will present the following contents. As SMEs and startups lead innovation and are critical for economic growth, the government reorganized small and medium business administrations into MSS in 2017. Led by the minister, MSS is comprised of 1 vice minister, 4 deputy ministers, 13 regional SMEs and startup offices, and 3 Meister high schools. About 1,300 employees work together, and the 2020 budget is 16.4 trillion won, or $13.7 billion. The MSS focuses on policies on MSMEs and innovation, policies on startups and ventures, cooperation on large companies and MSMEs and startups, supporting for micro-enterprises and internationalizing MSMEs. These are 5 core missions. When the COVID-19 outbreak was first identified in China but not spread to Korea in January, under the minister's leadership, in collaboration with the 13 MSS regional offices and MSMEs-related organization, Coronavirus Emergency Response Team was established to closely monitor effects of COVID-19 and analyze business difficulties, thus establishing countermeasures. In addition, we closely cooperate with the Central COVID Response Headquarters centers. Spread of COVID-19 results in shortage of masks, soaring prices, and complaints among public increases. MSS arranged ways to rapidly stabilize supply. Through the public home shopping channels for SMEs, sales of masks and hand sanitizers were broadcasted. 1 million masks and 140,000 hand sanitizers were secured, while margins were minimized and supplied to consumers. For micro-enterprises and self-employed, 300,000 masks were provided through traditional markets and trade association. To safely reopen factories for Korean SMEs working at the COVID-19 affected provinces, 10,000 masks were provided to SMEs in Wuhan, China. Sales commission fee was reduced from 5% to 2.5% at online shopping platform for micro-enterprises so as to allow their products to be actively sold. To enable the affected MSMEs to respond to COVID-19, the ministry took 2 rounds of measures to provide liquidity of 26.4 trillion won. As the primary program, a total of 16.4 trillion won of funds was provided at a fixed rate of 1.5%, and loans were provided through national and commercial banks related to SMEs and small businesses. As the second program, the credit guarantee funds was commissioned through 6 commercial banks and 10 million won per case, 3 to 4% interest rate with the upper limit conditional program for 5 years. To resolve financial difficulties of SMEs, we extended the maturity of existing loans up to 6 months and to deferred interest payment for MSMEs until the situation stabilized. MSS also provides special financial support to 29,000 temporarily closed stores where the COVID-19 confirmed visited. 3 million won per store is provided to normalize the management. To 161,000 closed stores due to inevitable lockdown, 1 million won per store is provided to resolve financial difficulties. For MSMEs based on COVID-affected areas, gift certificates amounting to 3.5 trillion won were issued to be used at local traditional market exclusively. In order to reduce the burden of employers, rental fees is reduced to micro-business owners in private and public sectors, while support is given to landlords. If the private landlord voluntarily cut the rent, the government shares half the cut, and the central and local government lowered the rent from 1/3 to 1/5 until the end of this year. All public institutions have also cut the rent by 20 to 35% for the next 6 months. As a campaign to support MSME, public institutions under MSS have conducted a campaign to pay in advance to increase cash flow at regular restaurants. MSS led the prepayment campaign nationwide. We support business activities for SMEs exporting. As a way to support SMEs who have difficulties in foreign trade consultation, 3 export promoting government agencies, including Korea SMEs and Startup agencies and Korea International Trade Associations and KBs or Korea Federation of SMEs, are hosting virtual consultation. From April to July, 10 times over 4 months for 400 companies, virtual consultations were held. Business traveling each country is difficult due to COVID-19. We hope to actively utilize online export consultation. For urgent business purpose, businessmen with health certificate issued by Korean government designated hospital, exceptional entry into foreign country is allowed through diplomatic channels. For this, bilateral and multilateral cooperation is ongoing. Meanwhile, when foreign companies need to enter Korea for urgent business such as contract, investment, and technical support, if a Korean counterpart applies for quarantine exemptions, government ministries including MSS actively reviews and allow entry without quarantine period if PCR test result is negative. As we are actively supporting foreign business activities through measures such as mitigating quarantine when entering Korea, we hope foreign governments actively support Korean companies so that they enter with eased or exempted quarantine for important business purpose. The COVID-19 damage is concentrated in small businesses, mainly in offline stores. We are strengthening the support of small business advancing online. By securing a budget in 2021, we plan to strengthen support for MSMEs entering the online market. To actively respond to the post-COVID-19, MSS is also pursuing the post-COVID-19 policy. As a digital New Deal, through public-private partnership, 1 trillion Korean won Smart Korea Fund is created, focusing on new industries such as online, AI, and big data. By 2022, vouchers for teleworking system will be provided to 160,000 SMEs in the SMEs Venture Business Cluster. Infrastructures for 1,500 joint video conferencing and consultation will be built. As the Green New Deal, Green Startup Town is established at Town Regeneration District, while Green Technology leading 100 green ventures with growth potentials are selected to be fostered by 2022 by supporting the entire business cycle, including R&D, demonstrations, and commercialization. To secure national competitiveness in the fourth industrial revolution, smartizations of MSMEs and micro-businesses is promoted through the entire process of the value chain from logistics of manufacturing process distributions to sales. With the goal of providing 30,000 smart factories by 2022, smart digital MSMEs is pursued. 1,000 5G-based smart factories will be built 2020. Manufacturing process upgrade and innovation by smart factory will be promoted. Through manufacturing data analysis to improve process quality and support product development, 2 MSMEs exclusive data centers and 1 data platform will be set up by 2020. Through customized online consultation, online exhibitions, collaboration with local marketeers for omnidirectional online export support tailored to MSE and SMEs, we are also providing online marketing one-stop service by connecting SMEs product registered on domestic online platform to global online platforms to expand the target of sales to grow into specialized shopping mall. The global competitiveness, we are actively supporting technology and marketing. For SMEs with weak brand recognition, we launched Brand K, a joint brand of SMEs last year. We promote recognitions of K-product overseas, capitalizing the Korean wave in K-pop, K-cosmetics, and K-food. At a large-scale promotional event, we promote worldwide marketing through Brand K. We also support advancement of biomedical product by utilizing the Korean quarantine image. In cooperation with various related organizations shown here, MSS is striving to support MSMEs. For more information, please visit the website of the relevant institutions and organizations. If you need further information, please contact the relevant agency or me, and I will do my best to guide you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your detailed information, Director Liang. And we have the last presenter. Last but not least, regarding Gyeonggi Province's disaster basic income, Assistant Governor Choi Won-young of Gyeonggi Provincial Government will deliver the presentation. Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Governor Choi Won-young of Planning and Coordination Office of Gyeonggi Province Government. My presentation will cover background, overview, considerations, solutions, and key outcomes. First, background. The COVID-19 outbreak has spread around the world, and the global economic recession has been prolonged, which led to a shrunk consumption and a sluggish business confidence. It means a crisis of the local economy has been materialized. As a result of a survey, 97.9% of small businesses responded that their sales dwindled. To revitalize the local economy on 24th March, for the first time in the country, our province decided to provide Gyeonggi disaster basic income to all residents in the province. Next, overview of the project. Gyeonggi disaster basic income is not just a welfare policy but an income as well as expenditure for the recovery of the local economy. It is an economic prevention and countermeasure too. An increased consumption ability could lead to an increased consumption, which in turn will boost production and investment. Such increased production and investment could lead to the creation of new jobs, which helps increase incomes of consumption. This is a virtuous cycle as well as an economic policy that could expect trickle-up effect. A total of 1,364.2 billion Korean won will be provided without any additional taxes. Unnecessary budgets were cut down and relatively less efficient budgets than basic income were adjusted, so as to create a disaster management fund, disaster relief fund, and regional development fund. All provincial residents could receive 100,000 won regardless of their income level. Next consideration, to encourage residents to spend the disaster basic income immediately so as to revitalize their local economy, the basic income needed to be provided promptly, and to prevent further spread of the virus, lineups for application of payments were needed to be prevented. Particularly, we decided to provide the basic income in local currency That could be used only in stores with the sales below 1 billion won in order to increase the sales of small businesses and self-employed business owners. However, a new type of card was required since the basic income was supposed to be provided in local currency. The problem was that issuing the cards required 3 months, which would cause troubles providing the basic income without delay. The disaster basic income was a new policy measure, therefore, no one has had any experience on that, which caused a sharp increase in citizen inquiries. Gyeonggi Province Call Center saw a 600% increase in daily inquiries from 3,657 to 28,342 cases. The sharp increase in inquiries was another issue to solve. Next, solutions. It took only 15 days from decision to implementation of the disaster basic income. The establishment of basic plans, application system development, enactment and enforcement of ordinance for the provision of the disaster basic income, and cooperation with relevant institutions finished in just 15 days, thanks to all officers who worked really hard around the clock. We limited the validity of the basic income to 3 months to encourage provincial residents to spend it promptly and to prevent consumption exit. The ultimate goal was to facilitate the quick recovery of the local economy. As we decided to provide the disaster basic income in local currency, not in cash, we had discussions with 13 credit card companies, and we decided to make better use of individuals' existing credit cards. Providing the basic income to residents' credit cards was selected by the central government as the way to provide emergency disaster fund. To prevent the spread of the virus, we started online application earlier than offline application. 55.6% of all residents applied for the basic income, and we introduced a 5-day rotation system which allows people to submit an application on designated days based on their birth years. Regarding the dramatically increased citizen inquiries, we opened an online exclusive consultation service and operated the disaster basic income call center. The center handled as many as 3,500 cases a day. Next is key outcomes. The first outcome we achieved is the recovery of the local economy induced by the provision of the disaster basic income. Self-employed businesses' revenues from cards recovered to 90% YOY in just 3 weeks after the basic income was provided. And in the third week of May, the revenue increased to 107% YOY, and disaster basic income member stores' revenues from cards increased 39.7% on average for 6 weeks YOY. In contrast, non-member stores with the sales of more than 1 billion won saw an average of 11.5% decrease. The first achievement we made is revitalizing the local economy through the sales increase of small businesses and self-employed owners, which was the intended purpose of the disaster basic income. Second achievement was successful implementation of the policy and saving budgets. In just 1 month after provision, 86.8% of provincial residents submitted application. And as of 8th June, 96% of the provincial residents applied for the basic income, joining the campaign of revitalizing the local economy. And we decided to provide the basic income to resident credit cards. We were able to save 7 billion won that could have been used to make new cards. The third achievement was that our province's disaster basic income catalyzed nationwide spread of disaster basic income. And ever since Gyeonggi provided the basic income, 76 local governments in the country has provided the disaster basic income. And the government decided to provide emergency disaster funds to all citizens, not only to bottom 70% of the income bracket. And the last achievement is high satisfaction of our provincial residents. We carried out a survey of small business and self-employed owners. 80% responded that the disaster basic income would help them financially, and 90% of them praised that the disaster basic income was effective and helpful. And we helped increase disposable income of residents, which facilitated consumption. At the same time, since it has limited validity and places to be used, it was an economic welfare policy helping small business increase their sales. I hope it could serve as a catalyst to revitalize the stagnant economy. With this, I'd like to conclude my presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much for your detailed presentation, and we are going to have a Q&A session. We have received several questions, and I'm going to ask one by one to you following the presentation order. The first question goes to Director General Park from the Ministry of Economy and Finance.
발표하신 것처럼 OECD 전망에 따르면
As you mentioned in your presentation, according to the OECD outlook, Korea has been hit economy-wise due to the outbreak, but the damage is relatively not significant. Compared to other countries, how do you assess the size of Korea's economic response to the outbreak?
예, 그 적절한
First, the proper level of economic response
각 나라별로
could
지금 그 피해
vary
상황이나
depending on
경제
the
여건이 다르기
affected
때문에
country's situation and
일률적인
economic
그
conditions.
비교는 좀
Therefore,
곤란한
it's hard to
측면이
do
있습니다.
simple
다만
comparison
그
work between
말씀드린
countries.
대로
But as I mentioned
재정,
before,
전체 지원 규모는
the
총
total size of
210조
support by the Korean
GDP
government
14%
is
수준에
270 trillion
그래서
won,
IMF에
which accounts
따르면은
for
이러한
14% of our
정도의
GDP.
대응 규모는
And according to
G20
the IMF, the size of our
중상위권
economic response
수준으로
is in the
평가하고
mid-upper level among
그리고
G20
그 한국의
countries.
어떤 경제나
And considering
보건
the
그
size of the
피해
Korean economy
수준을
and the
감안할
level of
경우에는
damage in the
상당히
field of
적지 않은
health,
수준이라고
the
생각할
size
수
of
있습니다.
supportive measures is
한국
not small at all.
정부로서는 그 철저한 어떤 방역 조치와
Prompt
함께
prevention and control measures
피해
and
계층이나
bold
피해
economic
산업에
response
대한
in time
신속하고 적기
to
지원을 통해서
maximize the injection of funding
지원
and
효과를
minimize
최대한
negative impacts are
극대화하고자 하는데
the
주력하고
Korean
있습니다.
government's plan.
마지막으로 현재 준비
And
중인
last but not least,
제3차 추가
currently we are preparing
경정
for the
예산까지 포함할
third
경우
supplementary budget,
재정 지원
and
규모는
if
더욱
it is
확대될
included, then the
전망이라는
size of financial
말씀드립니다.
support
감사합니다.
is expected to be more expanded further. Thank you very much for your answers. The second question goes to Director Chang.
You mentioned the payment of unemployment maintenance subsidy for unpaid leave will be expanded. Please explain how the requirements have been relaxed now compared to before the spread of COVID-19. With the labor management agreement, after employee takes 3 months of paid leave and apply for unpaid leave for more than 90 days, then unpaid leave employment retention subsidy is provided. Considering the COVID-19 situation which is worsening, the government has newly established the unpaid leave program to ease the requirement to pay employment retention support. The aim is to provide subsidy for businesses that cannot afford to pay employee leave or business suspension benefits due to severe financial difficulties for 3 months. Specifically, in the case of unpaid leave starting from July the 1st, it may be eligible for unpaid leave for 30 days or more after 1 month's paid leave instead of 3 months. With the spread of COVID-19, as the employment situation is worsening, 8 industries were designated as special employment support sectors, and criteria eligible for the special employment support have been further relaxed from April 27. In particular, due to the spread of the COVID-19, when business cannot afford to pay employees leave or business suspension benefit, they will be eligible for subsidy.
Thank you very much for your answer. And the third question is directed to Team Leader Kwon Sun-mok from Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy. There are so many vulnerable people and the affected industries, but when it comes to the automotive industry, cooperation between SMEs and large enterprises in the automotive industry is quite impressive. Could you please share a bit more about it, including some examples?
네, 제가 발표 때 간단히
As I
언급했던
mentioned
프로그램
in
중
my
하나인데,
presentation,
구체적인 그 프로그램 중 하나를
and I'm going to
소개를 드리겠습니다.
explain this program among many
자동차
others.
그 업종은 위기 극복 그리고 코로나 이후
To overcome the crisis and to take another leap forward, the automotive industry must be able to maintain its competitiveness. It means that large enterprises, of course, they need to survive, but parts vendor companies that supply parts to large enterprises, they need to survive too.
중소중견기업의 생존을 위해서
So in this regard, large enterprises in Korea has been committed to the survival of vendor SMEs.
한국의 정부와 그다음에
The
자동차
Korean
업계
government
대표기업인
and the Hyundai Motor
현대자동차가
Company
각각 200억 원을
contributed
출연했습니다.
20 billion
그래서
Korean
그 재원을
won,
가지고
respectively.
실용보증기금
So with this money, policy finance organizations have utilized that funds to guarantee loans of SMEs so that SMEs can secure liquidity seamlessly. And Hyundai Motor Company and its vendor companies and partner companies which are very sound when it comes to finance, but they have temporarily some issues regarding liquidity, but through our programs, they were able to secure liquidity.
그리고 저희는 이제 자동차뿐만 아니라
And other than the automotive industry, in the field of steel, textile, and machinery,
그 지금의 이런 연대 협력 사례를
cooperation and solidarity between large enterprises and SMEs is underway, and I believe that is a driving force to overcome the crisis.
네,
Thank you very much for your answer.
다음은
And next question goes to Minister of SMEs and Startups.
기업의 활동에도 많은 영향이
Director
코로나가
Yang,
주어질
in
것
your
같습니다.
presentation, you
그리고
said that you would have
특히
hosted
중소기업
online
수출
export
촉진하기
consultation
위해서
to promote
비대면
SME
화상
export.
상담회를
I'm sure that they are
개최한다고
all
설명해
suffering.
주셨는데
Could you tell us
상담회
more
추진
about the
상황과
current
앞으로의
status
계획이
of
어떻게
the
진행되고 있는지
online
답변
export
부탁드리겠습니다.
consultation, and also what are your future plans?
네, 코로나19의
Due
글로벌
to the
확산으로
global
올해
spread of
상반기
the
주요 해외 전시회가
COVID-19,
취소되어
major
한국
overseas
중소기업의
exhibitions
수출
were
애로가
all
매우 많으며
cancelled
모든
in the
국가에
first half of this
비슷한
year.
상황에 직면해
So
있을 것으로
exporting Korean
판단됩니다.
SMEs had
따라서
difficulties,
중기부는
and I'm sure that other
중소벤처기업진흥공단,
countries face similar
무역협회, 중소기업
situation.
중앙회 세 개 기관과 함께
And
릴레이로
together
온라인
with the
화상
three
상담회를 진행
exporting
중입니다.
government agencies, including
중기부는
Korea SMEs and
참여
Startup
기업에
Agencies, Korea International
현지어
Trade
카탈로그
Association,
등 기업
and
맞춤형
KB's or Korea
콘텐츠를
Federation of
제작하고
SMEs, we are
국내와
hosting
해외
virtual
현지를
meetings.
연결하는 화상회의 시스템을
MSS provides
구축하였습니다.
customized content productions for local
바이어,
companies such as
제조사,
catalogs
무역
in local
전문가,
languages,
삼자 간
build a
수출
video
상담회를
conferencing
지원하고
systems that connects
비대면
domestic and
화상
overseas
상담
buyers,
특성을 고려하여
sellers, and makers of
제품 샘플
traders.
해외 배송 서비스
Considering the
제공,
features of
사후
the
계약
virtual
지원,
meeting, we also
온라인
provide
쇼핑몰
product
판매
sample
대행 등을
delivery service,
지원하고 있습니다.
post-contract support,
화상
online
상담회의
shopping
주요
mall sales
품목으로는
agencies.
화장품,
The main
생활용품, 의류,
items that are addressed
패션,
during the
고용
virtual
가전,
meetings are
가공식품
cosmetics,
등
household
한국의
goods,
중소기업
clothing,
공동 브랜드,
fashion,
브랜드
small
K 제품,
appliances,
그리고
processed food,
우수
brand K
중소기업의
products,
코로나
which are the joint
19
brands of
방역 제품을
Korean
포함하고
small
또
and
소재,
medium
부품, 장비 등
businesses.
산업
Also
제품도
included are K
포함됩니다.
quarantine products such as material
4월부터
parts and
7월까지
equipment
4개월간
products
총
made by
10회에 걸쳐
SMEs.
400에서
We
500여 개의 기업의 비대면 수출
will
마케팅을
host
집중 지원할
five
계획입니다.
more
그동안
times of the
중국,
virtual meeting
아세안
focused
국가,
on countries such as
신흥국가를
China,
중심으로
the
총
ASEAN
5회를
member
실시하였으며
countries, and the new
앞으로
Northern
6월에서 7월
countries.
동안
From
나머지
July,
5회를 추진할 계획입니다.
June to July, we will
화상
host
상담에
more
참여에 관심 있는
meetings.
국가에서는
If you're
지금
interested
화면에
in
나오는
participating in virtual consultation,
중소벤처진흥공단,
contact of the
무역협회
representative of
담당자에게
the
연락을
Korean
하시면
SMEs and
참여
startup
방법 및
agencies
세부
or
일정 정보를 받으실 수 있도록
SME and
하겠습니다.
KITA are here.
각국에는
Please get the
코로나19로
detailed
기업 해외
information.
출장의
Business
애로가
worldwide
많은데
are faced
한국이
with many
추진한 온라인
difficulties in
수출
overseas
상담을
business trips
적극
due to the
활용할 수 있기를
COVID-19.
희망합니다.
I hope that
감사합니다.
countries can take most of the virtual
네,
consultation.
감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Director Yang. And next question is directed at Gyeonggi Provincial Government.
경기도에서
As you mentioned before, Gyeonggi Province decided to provide a disaster basic income for the first time in the country, and I believe there must be many difficulties. And could you explain how provincial residents submit applications and how long you are going to accept them?
네, 저희 경기도민이 1,360만 명입니다.
And we have 13 million, so 13.6 million residents, and received
들어있는 선불 카드를 드리는
and we received applications, and then we provide debit cards. And there were three difficulties.
카드 제작
First,
기간이 굉장히 오래 걸리는
the
문제가
period for creating cards was too long. And second, cost for making cards. 1,000 won for one card, so it could take
어려운 상황에서
billions of Korean won. And third is difficulties regarding prevention and control. So we contemplated and we had discussions with officers. So we decided to make better use of individuals' credit cards.
붙여낸 겁니다. 그래서 신용카드사하고 회의를 통해서
So we had meetings with credit card companies, and from 9th April to 30th April, we received applications
그것이 한 1,360만
for credit cards, and among 13.6 million, 7 million residents chose credit cards,
나머지 500만
and the rest, more than 5 million residents,
행정복지센터나
visited
공기관을 통해서 직접
financial institutions or administration welfare centers.
좀 편의를 드리고자 보통 이제
And
행정복지센터
for
근무
considering
시간이
our
6시까지인데
residents' convenience and accessibility,
8시까지 좀 2시간씩
we extend the working hour of welfare center from 6 to 8. And also, our officers at the welfare center worked weekend and weekend as well. So that's how we worked.
네,
Thank you very much for your
저희 두 번째
answer. And the
질문들이 많이
second
도착해
question
있습니다.
arrived.
산업부의
And I'm going
권순목
to
팀장님께
ask
드리는 질문인 것
this
같은데요.
second question to Team Leader
코로나19로 인한 위기 극복을 위해서 특히 산업 분야에서는
So to overcome the
국내적인 협력 외에
crisis,
국제적인 협력도 중요하다고 보이는데
international cooperation is as much important as cooperation inside the country. And what is your take on this, and what kind of plans do you have?
그 지금 세계 경제가 글로벌 공급
Now the global economy is connected closely through the global supply
코로나
chain.
때문에 경제 교류라든지
However, under
인적
this
교류,
situation,
필수적인 그 경제 활동을 위한 필수적인 흐름들이
The
지금 많이
essential
차단됐습니다.
flow has been blocked,
당연히
including
이런
human
차단
exchange.
때문에 세계
And
경제에
because
안
of
좋은
this
영향을
blockage,
미치고 있고요.
the global
저희는
economy
굉장히
has
어려운
been
상황임에도 불구하고
hit.
각국이
So under
서로의 방역
this
조치를 저해하지 않는
very
범위
difficult
내에서
situation, we need to make sure that
기업인과 같은 그
essential
필수적인 인력들이
human exchange
잘
that doesn't
이동을 할
disrupt
수
prevention and
있도록
control
협력을
measures
해야
goes
된다고
on
생각을 하고
as much as
있습니다.
possible through
그래서 저희
international
한국은
cooperation.
G20이나
So that is why
ASEAN
Korea
플러스 3
has
같은
put an
다양한
importance
국제
to
협의체를
a
통해서
seamless
이런 인적 물적
human
이동을
exchange and
원활하게
logistics
해야
in several
한다는
international
그런
consultative
논의를
bodies,
주도를 하고
including
있는
G20,
상황입니다.
APEC, and ASEAN
뿐만이
Plus
아니라 그 우리나라 기업인들이 그 다른 나라에
And
가서
in addition
기업
to
활동을
this,
좀 편하게
for
하실 수
Korean
있도록
businesses
상대
to
정부와 그
work in other
입국에 대한
countries,
협의도 하고
we had
있고요.
discussions with other
그다음에
countries when it
또
comes to
외국에서
entry.
그 중요한 사업 때문에 우리나라로 오시는 그런
And there
기업인들을
must be
좀
some
돕기 위해서
businessmen
격리
in other
면제나
countries
이런
who
대안들도
want to
지금
come to
추진을
Korea
하고
for
있습니다.
businesses. So we are trying to
저
some
얼마 전에 그 미국의 유명한
give some
그
exemptions
헨리 키신저 전
for
국무부
entry.
장관이 얘기를 했는데요.
As a former U.S. Secretary of State said, Henry Kissinger said, we need to make sure that the era of fortress with walls doesn't
이런
return.
우려를 불식시키기 위해서
So,
앞에도 말씀하셨지만
As
국가
many
간
previous
협력이
speakers mentioned
절대적인
before,
답이라고 생각을
international
하고요.
cooperation, I believe it is
앞으로도
the
더욱
only
이제
answer
이런
to
국가 간
deal with
공조를
this
좀 저희 나라가
COVID-19
주도를
outbreak, and
하도록 하겠습니다.
I want to lead this situation in the world. Thank you very much for your comments, and you also emphasized the importance of international cooperation. And next question is about disaster basic income. This goes to Assistant Governor Choi Won-young.
1,300만 명이 넘는 그 도민들이 있다고
You said
하셨는데
residents is more than 13 million.
단기간에 상당한 많은
And
민원이
you mentioned
발생되고
that
민원이 폭증했다고
A surged number of
보입니다.
citizen inquiries.
어떠한 민원
And
내용들이
what were the
있었고,
issues
또
and
이런 부분을
how
어떤 식으로 현장에서
Did
대응해서
you
해결했는지
address and handle
좀더
such issues on
자세한
site?
설명을
Could you briefly explain a bit more
지금
about it?
사기사께서 말씀하신
And as the moderator said,
1,360만
we have more than
명의
13.6 million provincial
예산
residents.
지원을 하다 보니까
And since we have to provide
10% 만족하고
budgets
10%
to them,
정도가 이렇게
and almost
만족하고
above
30%
90%
숫자적으로 50만
of
명이라고
residents said they were satisfied, but the rest of them were not satisfied. So regarding the way of application, they have made a lot of inquiries. Since we had no idea, since it is the first concept in the country, disaster basic income, so we had announced how to use it and how to apply it, but there were some confusions. And regarding the use of local currency, it is difficult to use. It is different to use regarding the credit compared to the credit card, and people can only use this local currency in only stores with the sales below 1 billion. So that's why we decided to use two ways. And online, we opened a center for inquiries from citizens so that in real time we were able to give answers to inquiries to our residents, and we selected 50 officers for this dedicated center. And also we set up a task force to give an answer to your inquiries. And last but not least, there were so many inquiries coming from the welfare center. So we created a chat room on KakaoTalk to give answers to all inquiries. So as many as more than 3,500 inquiries were coming to us, and recently we have about 10 inquiries on a daily basis. Thank you very much for your answer. So basic disaster income scheme has been utilized by other countries, and I believe it is a quite innovative way to provide subsidies to residents and Koreans, and I believe it has many implications. And next question goes to is regarding Korean New Deal. And many countries are trying to deal with the COVID-19, and they are preparing for post-COVID-19 era. And could you please tell us the background of the Korean New Deal and share the plan to create new jobs through this Korean New Deal project? And I believe this question is directed to Director General Park, who has been in charge of this project. First, the Korean government has been pushing for the Korean New Deal, and it is to overcome the crisis and prepare for the post-COVID-19 era. So with this project, and we'd like to shift our economy from fast follower to a leading economy and to create jobs. That is our goal. So this Korean-style New Deal has a strategy of focus, select, and focus. And it will conduct 25 core products in 7 fields, and 76 trillion won will be invested by 2025. In particular, by 2022, 31.3 trillion won will be invested for projects that could be carried out immediately to create 550,000 new jobs. And let me briefly talk about new jobs that would be created by the Korean New Deal. And when it comes to digital new jobs, in the field of public data analysis, AI, and IoT installation, and digital education, in these areas we will create a total of 330,000 new jobs. And next is about Green New Deal. Through the Green New Deal project, we have a plan to create new jobs in the field of daycare center, public health clinic, and smart water supply and sewage system based on ICT. So our goal is to create a total of 133,000 new jobs. And last but not least, to strengthen the job security, we will give incentives for youth employees and to old job seekers. And as I mentioned before, detailed plans for the Korean New Deal will be announced in July this year. Thank you very much for your answer. And next question goes to Director Yang from Ministry of SMEs and Startups.
Director Yang, you mentioned Smart Korea Fund is one of the plans to respond to the post-COVID era. Could you explain more about Smart Korea Fund? What are your plans and what kind of contents does it have and how are you going to proceed it? For the post-COVID-19, the Smart Korea Fund is promoted in the small and medium-sized companies and startup companies sector. Around 1 trillion won was raised by private and public joint ventures, and we will invest around 400 billion won from the fund of funds to raise subsidy of 1 trillion won as partnership funds. Since 2005, the Korean government has created and operated a fund of funds to be invested in a venture funds created by private VCs to promote
유도하기
investment in the
위하여
venture sector.
정부가 우선
On the other hand, in order to
충당 등
induce active
리스크를 먼저 떠안는
participation of the
방식으로
private sector,
추진됩니다.
it is promoted in such a
투자
way
분야는
that
크게 세
government
가지로
first
제조,
embraces
생산
risk
및
such as
서비스
loss
전달
of
과정에서
priority.
사람
There are
간의
three main
접촉을
areas of
감소시키는 기술
investment.
기반의
First, the
비대면
technology-based
분야에 5천억 원,
non-face-to-face sector
진단,
that reduces
백신, 치료제,
contact
의료기기
between
등
the people during
바이오
manufacturing,
헬스케어
productions and
분야에
service
4천억 원,
deliveries, around
그린
500
제품,
billion
대체 에너지,
and 400 billion won in the
업사이클링 등
fields
그린
such as
벤처
bio-healthcare,
분야에
such as
1천억 원을
diagnosis,
투자할
vaccine
계획입니다.
treatment, and medical
감사합니다.
device, and also for green area, 100 billion won will be invested. This will be the last question that we are going to raise. Director Chang Hae-young, emergency employment stability subsidy, and also the eligibility of these subsidies. What are the detailed eligibility? Director Chang Hae-young, could you please answer? Emergency Employment Stability Subsidy is paid to employees especially affected by COVID-19, such as dependent self-employees, special patterns of the workers, freelancers, micro business owners, employees taking unpaid leave of absence, whose income and sales decline due to the spread of COVID-19. To stabilize their livelihood, we are paying the subsidy. Specifically, the employment support subsidy is provided to non-standard contract employees, freelancers who work from December 2019 to January 2020, but who do not have employment insurance. This is the case that we pay the subsidy. Now, secondly, in the case of micro business owners who conducted business between December to January 2020, December last year to January of 2020, but do not have employment insurance, are also eligible for the subsidy. However, the government excluded some industries such as entertainment industries and gambling businesses. In the case of unpaid leave workers, for companies with less than 50 employees and are covered by employment insurance but took unpaid leave of absence, are also eligible for these subsidies. Whether the workers' income or sales declined needs to be reviewed, and based on the average income of March and April of this year, we compare that together with the average monthly income of 2019 or December 2019 to January 2020, the income, it is judged by comparing with these elements.
Thank you very much. Due to time constraint, we are not able to give answers to all the questions. So for those questions, we will give you an answer through email. So with this, we'd like to conclude the last session. So to respond to the COVID-19 outbreak, the Korean government's various economic policies and industrial policies have been summarized into a brochure in this website, english.moef.go.kr, and you can download it at press release bulletin board. Your interest will be very much appreciated. Once again, thank you very much for all of you joining us today through this at this webinar. And I hope our policies could help other countries devise their new policies. Thank you very much.